Hey everyone, Brand Champion Landavander here, and we're going to go through a how to play for the Booster Brat TCG. So to start, Booster Brat is a TCG and story all in one. It is a story about three brothers and their adventures in the Pocketeer cult. So we'll go over everything from how to play, the anatomy of the cards, and yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and start with card anatomy. Go ahead and get familiar with the cards. Number 1 is credit cost. You receive an allowance of 11 credits every turn. Every card has a number in the upper left that signifies how many credits it will take to activate them or add them to your team. Number 2 is theme. Every card belongs to one or more themes. Each theme has its own strengths, weaknesses, playstyles, and strategies. Each theme is strong against one other theme. As an example, when a character from the friend theme is fighting a character from the enemy theme, the friend character gains plus 100 power. A neutral character is not strong or weak against any themes. Number 3 is power. In the top right corner, this number signifies a character's strength in battle. When characters battle, the character with the highest power wins. Power can be influenced by other cards like items, events, and character abilities. Settings and events do not have power and will simply say setting or event in this area. Number 4 is deck limit. The rectangles on the right-hand side of the card signify how many of a certain card you can have in your deck. Decks are made of between 50 to 60 cards. Number 5 is card type. Cards are either characters, items, events, or settings. Let's quickly go over them now. Characters may only be played in the team zone or team leader slot and come in two types, agent and unit. Agents provide the narrative thrust of the story and gameplay. You must begin the game with an agent as your team leader. You'll want to make your team leader a character that has specific effects that influence your other cards and characters. After the first round, any character can be played in your team leader slot as long as it's empty. You may have one active team leader at a time. And units are things to be collected, the sentient beings, monsters, robots of the universe. Evolved agents can be played on top of basic agents with which they share a name. Evolved units will specify which unit they play on top of in the area next to card type. For example, Brat is an evolved unit that must be played on top of a C.A.R.D that you already have on your team. Champion units are an even more specialized form of a unit that are played on top of an evolved unit. They are signified by a rainbow card type bar. For example, Max Brat must be played on top of a Brat, which was in turn played on top of a C.A.R.D that you had on your team. An evolved character keeps any cards attached to the character beneath, but the basic character's card effects are ignored. 2 notes. A character cannot be evolved in the same turn it is played, and unless otherwise stated, when a card effect asks you to move a character, any cards stacked beneath them, evolution forms, items, attachments, etc., move with them. Settings. Each player may only have one setting card in play. Setting cards may be replaced once per turn by playing a new setting card in the setting slot. The old setting goes to the owner's use pile. Items. Item cards are played under character cards but must be visible. Each character card can only have one item card attached to it unless stated on the character card or item card. Items will often add power bonuses if they are weapons. Events. Event cards may only be played during your main phase unless they are quick play events and may be played during any player's main or battle phase. Events go into the use pile once used. Number 6. Evolution. Evolved units will list the unit they are played on top of. Number 7. Story number. The story number tells where the card chronologically falls into the story's timeline. Number 8. Story area. This is where all the lore and story events are gathered. Number 9. Keywords. Keywords in the story text are highlighted and will be referenced by game text and effects. Some of the keywords include uphold, scary, disappointed, adventure, proud, create, organize, lost, excited, and scheme. Number 10. Game text. Any special effects or abilities that involve gameplay are at the bottom of the card. Number 11 is Rarity Badge, with each corresponding symbol in the bottom right of the card. The next section we'll go over is your Playmat. The first slot, your deck. This is the spot where you put your carefully selected and crafted 50 to 60 card deck that you'll use to face your rivals. Next is the Team Zone. Any agents or units that you want to use to battle your rival go in these 5 slots. Characters in your Team Zone are considered in play. Number 3, your Team Leader. When you start the game, search your deck for a basic agent and place it in the Team Leader slot. Later in the game, you can move any character into this slot. Number 4 is the Playground. This is where you send a single character each turn to fight your rivals. Number 5 is Setting. Each player is allowed to have one setting card in play at a time, and this setting card may influence both you and your rivals. Number 6 is the use pile. This is your discard pile, the place where you put any cards that you have used and have been instructed by the game text to place here. Number 7, your archive. This is where you put cards only when specifically instructed. It is much harder to take cards back from the archive into your hand or the game, so once they are archived, they're likely gone. Number 8 is your collection. This is the spot where you put any of the character and item cards that you win from your rival in combat, as well as any of your own cards that you use to beat them. And then number 9, your information slots. Round structure will help you keep track of phases and actions. Your credit card will allow you to keep track of your allowance, and then the power wheel will help you track any bonuses against other factions. Now that we're familiar with the card anatomy and playmat, let's move to starting the game and how to play the game. First, players get their allowance of 11 credits. For this instance, we'll be using the playmat as opposed to the playmat cards. Feel free to track your allowance with any agreed upon method, whether that's a counter, dice, pen and paper, etc. Once you've gotten your allowance, players then choose who goes first via an agreed upon method. In this example, I will be player 1. After you decide who goes first, both players will then search their deck for a basic agent, and you will take that card and place it face down in your team leader slot, shuffle, and then set your deck aside. After which, you will draw your 7 cards for turn, and then once you have drawn your 7, you may then choose to trade in. To trade in, you can simply take any number of cards that are already in your hand, set them aside, put them on the bottom of your deck in any order, and then draw back up to 7. Once this is done, players then flip their face down leader face up and reduce their allowance by the cost of their basic agent. For instance, I start at 11 and I go down to 6 with spark costing 5. If there are any effects that state they happen at the start of the game, they happen now. We'll be going over the round structure as we go through the 4 phases of the game. The first is the warm-up phase. At the start of every round, players get their allowance and set their credits to 11, which we have already done. At the same time, players draw until they have 7 cards in hand and then can choose to trade in any number of cards and draw back to 7. The warm-up phase is also the start of game. So we're going to move straight into the main phase right off of our warm-up phase. Main phase. During the main phase, each player gets a turn to perform any of these actions. Play a basic character in the team zone. Each player may only have 5 characters in the team zone at a time. Evolve a character. You may only evolve each character once per turn. Play an event. There is no limit to the number of events that can be played. Players may only play events during the main phase unless they are a quick play event, which can be played anytime a player would react. Once during their turn, a player may replace their current setting with another. The former setting is placed in the use pile. Each player may only have one setting in play at a time. Play an item on a character. Characters may only have one item attached to them unless stated on a card. You cannot play an item on a character that already has one. Next is the main phase. During the main phase, each player gets a turn to perform any of these actions. Play a basic character in the team zone. Each player may only have 5 characters in the team zone at one time. You may only evolve each character once per turn. Play an event. There is no limit to the number of events that can be played. Players may only play events during the main phase unless they are a quick play event, which can be played anytime a player would react. Once during their turn, a player may replace their current setting with another. The former setting is placed in the use pile. Each player may only have one setting in play at a time. Play an item on a character. Characters may only have one item attached to them unless stated on a card. You cannot play an item on a character that already has one. Once player 1 decides to end their turn, they must declare it. The next player gets to have their turn. Once all players have completed their turn, move on to the battle phase. So for our turn 1 main phase, we're going to go ahead and play a Space Cadet and pay 4 credits going down to 2. And then we will end our turn. Next we move on to the battle phase. Uh-oh, looks like my opponent has played Fret and equipped an item to him to make it 400 power. Looks like both of my characters won't be able to beat him this time, so we need to make a decision. In the battle phase, player 1 chooses a character on their team and moves it to the playground. All cards under that card, including items or evolution stages, also go into the playground with the character. Player 2 then does the same. So seeing that my opponent has a stronger character, I'm going to go ahead and put my Space Cadet up, who may only have 200 power right now, and an additional 100 power off of his own ability, bringing him up to 300. I know that my opponent's character is going to be stronger, so they send in their Fred for 400 now that I have chosen to place my character. Player 1 may use battle phase activated abilities or quick play events once they are done. Player 2 may do the same. Now that Player 2 has selected their character, we are now able to play quick play events that may turn the tides of battle. So what I will be doing is I'm going to be using Spark's ability. While Spark is your team leader, once during your turn you can play a friend card for -2 credits. We will be playing Make Some Noise, which typically costs 4 but now only costs 2. Your character with the lowest base power gains plus 300 power until the end of the round. If there is a tie, you choose. With Lost Cadet being my lowest base power and already in the playground, he's going to gain 300 power, bringing him up to a total of 6. My opponent has no quick play events, so now my Space Cadet is beating their friend. Battle begins by comparing the power of each character. The character with the highest power wins, which will be Space Cadet. Remember to account for theme advantages and check for any bonuses or penalties from events, items, settings, or other characters in the team zones. And now the end phase. The player that wins the battle collects all characters and items in the playground and adds them to their collection. So in this instance, I will get Space Cadet, Fret, and the Zimino attached to him, bringing me up to 3 cards total in my collection. In the event of a tie, both players place their character and any cards attached into their own collections. If both players reach 18 cards at the same time, then the match is a tie. After the end phase, the next round starts with player 2 going first. Players will alternate going first each round. And that's it! The first player to fill their collection with 18 cards is the winner. If this video was helpful, feel free to leave a like below, smash that subscribe button, do all that YouTube stuff. And remember, everything is collectible, even you.